Hi everyone, it's Jean from the inkyowlstudio. Welcome back and welcome first time subbies and viewers. I'm so happy you stopped by today. I am going to do part 2 of the File Folder Folio, and in the last video we got to this point, and now we're going to be working on the flap that goes over here on this section. And I have cut a piece of file folder from a second file folder that is 8.5 inches long and 3 3/4 inches wide, and it fits in. It will be going into the section like this, and then we'll be having a string tie that ties this together later on. You will score it at 3/4 of an inch on one end and fold it over, and that's going to be your hinge part there. Now I would recommend you make a prototype. Just take an old piece of scrap paper and cut those dimensions out to make sure that it will fit into that section. I only say that because I don't know if different file folders may be slightly different in where they put their creases and things. So just to test it out, I would just recommend you do a piece of paper just to make sure it's going to fit the way you like it to. Now we get to move on to decorating a little bit, but not everything. So I want you to decorate the front of the flap, the front and only the front of the little flap, the two pockets, and this section in here. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be doing that off camera and coming back. So there might be, you know, a stop and start thing to the editing here, but I don't think you'll notice too much. I did want to just point out, just in case you're interested, that I am going to be using Nature's Remedy, Artie Mays and Tracy Fox Love Journal Digis. They're very lovely, and kind of excited working with them. I've never worked with them before, so this will be fun for me. I always like to work with new DigiKits. And I am going to be doing, I'm going to be leaving a border because I've inked around the edges and everything, and I'll ink around the edges of this. I'm going to be leaving a slight border, and then I'm going to be taking a tear ruler and tearing strips to fit just inside, you know, all the sections. And I'm going to be leaving the tabs open. So, I mean, that's just sort of what I'm doing. I just thought I'd bring that up, but you can feel free to do it any way you like. You can cut, you don't have to use a tear ruler. You can just cut with your cutter, you know, the dimensions that fit inside there, whatever. And you could, I know that another option I've seen done too is that don't even worry about the borders. You can just go ahead and glue your whole piece onto your paper and then cut it out this way, and then the whole thing is decorated. So, you know, really, its options are really up to you. The only thing I would suggest is that when you do the inside, that you want to allow freedom for the creases to fold. So you do want to allow at least 1/8 of an inch between your decorative paper and your fold, so that you don't impede that any. That's the only, you know, rule I guess there is to it. So I'm going to be doing that off camera, and we will be back in a second. Okay, now we have them, all those pieces are all decorated. We are now going to make the brad and little circle. And I forgot what these are called, but they're to give a tie to the flap. And the way that I like to make my circles, you're going to need, you know, some excess cardstock or a piece of the file folder, and you're going to need a hole punch. And I use the 3/4 inch. 1/2 inch would probably work okay. I use that size. And when I make my holes, I like to put in the brad hole first, like so, because that makes it easier for me to line up and center the brad hole in the circle rather than trying to come back to the circle and, you know, trying to find the middle this way because your tool's kind of in the way. So that's how I like to do these little punches here. And then you're going to need to cover them with something decorative. So just, you know, a piece of your little scrap of some of your paper. Now you don't need to cut the hole first on the decorative paper. You just need to, well, that's kind of interesting. Let's see what that little 7 will look like. Just need to cut out your, see, my little punch it's losing its sharpness. Okay, and then once you've got that, we are going to glue it on to each of the circles, just like so. And now you can look on the back here and see where that circle is. And be nice if it was more dry. It doesn't punch as well when it's wet, but I think we'll be okay. So now you can look and see where to put the hole now. And voila. So now you have these ready to go. You'll need to find the middle at the top up here. And the middle on mine happens to be 1 7/8 inches. That just happens to be the middle. But on yours it could be a little different. Come down about 1 inch, about 1 inch from the top. So now to do this hole, your regular hole puncher is not going to work. You're going to need either a long reach, or I just use this pokey tool, this awl. Gotta pronounce that right. I just use this because it does the job, and it's not really going to show one way or the other. And my brads are pretty small. There we go. There. So that's already there. Come back here and stretch it out. There. So that looks really cool there. And then we're going to do the same down here below. And we're probably going to put the circle like in the middle of the smaller flap. And sometimes working with centimeters helps, because I can see here it's 8 centimeters across the paper. I'm going to go around 4. And really, you can eye it up. I don't think it can be off a little tiny bit. There we go. To go out more. So sometimes just poking a tool, especially if nothing is going to be seen on the other side, you're not going to see it's going to be covered up, then it matters a lot less. About where, yep, here it is. Sorry about that, he rolled away on me. So then we'll just put this in here in the bottom, and now we're all set with this. Now what I like to do is I like to place some tape on the back of these brads just to secure them. I'm just using some masking tape. It's probably optional, but I just like to do this part of it. Alrighty. And then we need to cover up those 2 places. Now I'm not covering the whole thing. You can actually put a matting and cover this whole area before you put the pocket on. but I'm just covering this top part because this is the part that will show when I put the pocket on. So I'm just going to place it there to the top. And then of course now we can cover up the other side of this flap down here. Quickly. There. All right. So now we have our little brad and tie down there, and we have one up there. And now we can glue in these pockets as well. And the first one we're going to glue in is the back pocket, and you can determine, you know, how far up do you want this to be, and that is totally up to you. I think that maybe this is about how I'm going to put it in. So I am going to make a little mark like right there, just to show me where I want to put that at. And I usually like to use Fabri-Tac for this. I think it's a little bit more secure. But, you know, your favorite glue is fine. And we'll just glue that down. There we go. And then we will move over and glue in this flap. Now in gluing this flap in, we need to take care that we come down, see, I'm leaving a little border at the edge. I'm not going all the way, so therefore I got to leave that little border up here as well, and not come all the way to the end. But I also got to look down here to make sure that I am centered on the bottom flap. Now we're going to work on the inside pocket that goes inside the flap. And I just noticed that actually I put this on the wrong end. It's really easy to get turned around in here because the pocket needs to go in facing straight up this way. If your paper has a design, it needs to go up this way and not this way, because the top of the pocket will be here. And so sometimes it is just a little easy to confuse that. I'm going to quickly put in a piece up here. And that's one of the reasons I think it's a good idea to glue in your flap before you put the pocket on, so that you can catch it if you happen to make that mistake. So there we go. Now I cut a piece of paper that is 4 5/8 by 8 inches, and essentially what you want, whatever size pocket you want to put here, it needs to be an inch wider along this side and an inch wider up on top, or a 1/2 inch all the way around, but that just means adding an inch to both measurements. So you do that, and I like to score my my paper so that I can make sure that I have, you know, what it needs to be. Then we're just going to fold them over and burnish it a little bit there, like so. And you know, you can totally eye it up. You know, it just depends on what you're comfortable doing. Just want to make sure they're all burnished over nicely. Now, like I said, this is going to be the opening where the pocket, you're going to enter the pocket by here. And so this part here, the corner parts, they need to be angled just a little bit. So I like to angle them. I don't want to cut them all the way to the corner, but I want to angle them, you know, about like that. You can see the creases in there. Just aids with the bulk a little bit. There we go. Now when you, oh, this top part needs to be glued down. And the reason that I put a 1/2 inch up on the pocket or the entrance part is to kind of make this so it's stable and will wear over time, that it doesn't rip. If you just left the paper just one sheet, then it could rip over time, but by doubling it up, I think it just makes a more stable pocket there. Then when you go to glue your pocket in, then you want to make sure that this flap here is on the outside of the other flaps, because this way your tag, as it goes in, will go down below here and not get caught on top of this tag right here. So that's where you need to do it. So I will glue this in. I will ink and glue this in off camera, and I'll be right back. For the next step, or the next part of it, we are going to need two envelopes, one for each side. I use junk mail. I have a plethora of junk mail. It doesn't take long to get it all to you know, have it all pile up on you. And I tea stain them. So these have been tea stained. You can use new ones and not stain them at all and cover them the way you want to. It's just all a matter of, you know, taste and how you want to decorate them. The idea of the envelopes is that they're going to be on a hinge and they're going to flip back and forth. I cut the envelope so that it fits in here, and so I allow at least, you know, 1/4 inch, just like what we've been doing all along. We just, or excuse me, 1/8, you know, like a good fat 1/8 of an inch. I make sure there's at least, you know, that much left. And then over to the side, you don't want it to go past this area here where your file folder goes down. You want to leave a little bit over there as well. So I just sort of mark it, you know, just about where I think it's going to be. And then you want to leave probably a good 1/8 of an inch, if not a little bit more, here on the seam, because your little hinge is going to fit in there. So it kind of, it's just snug in there. Now, if it's off, you can recut it. It isn't, you know, super critical. So let me just go ahead and bring my slicer over here. I just wanted to show you basically how that's going to be. So it's going to fit in like this. And then you're going to need to take a piece of cardstock. Now I would recommend cardstock and not the file folder, because the file folder is a little too thick. But a cardstock, you're going to cut it an inch wide, score it and fold it and burnish it. You're going to want to, again, kind of angle off these little corners. And first of all, I guess I better measure just how long of a hinge I need. You just need it the length of your envelope. There we go. And we're just gonna do this here. So before you decorate your envelope, you're going to want to glue this into place here. So you'll bring it right, you know, pretty close down to the edge there, and you're going to glue it in like so. So what I do is I cut a piece of decorative paper about a 1/2 inch wider than what I really needed it. Also, the other thing you've got to be concerned with too when you put decorative paper on is get it up, make sure you have it the right side up if you have a directional on your scrapbook paper. So just make sure you have it right side up. But I cut it a little, half an inch wider than what I need, and then I just quickly make a fold along there. And then what you can do is glue it into the inside so that you have some reinforcement on the entrance of your envelope. So it's like the same idea that we did with the flip out one, that just putting in that little extra I think can really help with the structure of that. So you'll want to do the same, on this side as well, and get that all done. So I'll be right back when I have this side decorated. So we will be doing the same thing to this envelope as we did to the one over here. You'll need your 1-inch wide cardstock folded in half for the hinge. And again, we'll come up here and we'll just clip off a little bit at the ends, like so. And then you'll want to cut your envelope down to a size that is, below the edge of this part of the file, and then of course, within the borders to match whatever you have along there. And then you decide, where do you want your window? Do you want it on this side? Do you want it on this side? I usually put mine here, and then we will attach the hinge to the bottom. Now, again, you're going to want to cut your paper so that it is just a little wider, and that way you can fold it over and put it back into here to reinforce that opening, and do the same on this side. And after you've done those two things, you have to determine about closing this up in here. Now you can just simply put a bead of glue here and close it up, or you can measure out if you know the tag you're going to use, and I'm using this tag here, you can measure out how far down this tag goes. And of course this is not going to be the full length, but I usually come down probably a ½ inch down, make a little mark, kind of there on the inside, and then I will glue up this area here and close it off. And that way my tag will not, fall down to the bottom. It will stop right where that's glued there. Now the reason that I don't cut the envelope shorter is because on this side I'm going to be putting pockets, and I'm going to put a couple of these, so I want enough room to put these together and let the tags kind of sit up on them a little bit. So that's why I don't cut the envelope shorter and just do that gluing down there. But if you're going to make a full length tag, then you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so here we have the envelope glued in with its hinge, all ready to go to the next little section. And for this, you're going to need a piece of cardstock cut 5 1/4 by 7 7/8. And essentially, you're going to want the cardstock, of course, to fit inside here in this direction. And then you're going to score a little flap to come down. It might vary on depending how wide this is for you, but on mine, let me get my ruler here. I should have measured this before, but it is 1 7/8 inches of a flap here. That's what it came out to, but yours may be a little bit further down or further up depending on what your measurement is for right there. And once you've done that, we're going to make a pocket for the inside here. And you should know the drill by now. It's like the other pockets we've been making. You measure how large you want your pocket in here, and then you add a 1/2 inch on all sides. And I added just a little bit more on the top because that's going to make it a little bit more stable up there. So probably width-wise, I added 1.5 inches. And my measurement for this came out to be 4 3/4 by 9 1/4. That's what the measurement came out to be. And so you go ahead and you fold in a 1/2 inch all the way around, like so. And we're going to snip off the corners just to reduce the bulk here. And of course, we're not snipping all the way to the crease, we're just snipping right before it. There we go. Oops. Here. Just do that. And glue down this top part. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in on camera. There we go. And you have these other ones. So remember that the bottom flap that's at the bottom of what your pocket is, this needs to be on the outside as you turn it up. And oftentimes I'll just put a little tack of glue there to kind of keep it this way. And that way your tags don't get caught as they go in and out. All right, and bear with me, I have to ink around this. And so I hope that you stuck with me here and that you are finishing up your journal. It's going to be exciting once you get it done. You'll be so proud of yourself, and I'm very proud of you too. From because this is not, you know, this is not an easy. It's easy to do. I think the steps are easy, but it is quite involved, and it does take a little stick-to-itiveness to get it finished. So I'm very proud of you that you've done that. Now here we go. We're just going to go in here. I probably sound like a kindergarten school teacher, huh? By saying how proud I am of you. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll just glue her in right like so. Okay, so the pocket is here. Now we're going to be making another little circle and brad like we did over here. First of all, though, we have to decorate this part here. And let me get my top for that. So we'll first of all just do the top of the flap. The other side we will do later after we get the brad in. And I'll just get this glued in. I promise this is all the decorating I'm going to do on camera, I think. Anyways, so we'll just stick that right in there. Alright. Now we will get to the middle of the flap and put a little mark on there. Let's see, it's about 4 inches there. So we'll put it in the middle. That's 4 inches. Just put it there in the middle, like so. And put in our punch. Actually, I probably should have a smaller punch, but this one will be okay. Pretty sure. There we go. And we get our little brad. So just like the other one, we cut out our little circle and put our little brad inside. Well, here we are. And like that. little piece of tape here. Actually, I have some cellophane tape handy, but masking tape is what I used for the other ones, but oh well, this is what I had handy. So we have that so far. Now we're going to go ahead and put in the inside. The closure, I use string for this, so we're going to take some string and tie it around the brad. Get that tied up there. Alrighty. You might want to put a knot in it. You can use baker's twine. I'm just using a little piece of string. Got it out there. Now this guy wraps around the back like so. And I'm just going to cut off several inches there. It wraps around the back, and so in the back you will need to make sure that this is not going to wiggle, and plus this is going to also be part of an envelope. So what I like to do then is I like to get a piece of paper, whatever you got, and then I like to use the Fabri-Tac, and we'll just glue that string down so he doesn't move around. Now you're not going to see any of this, so it doesn't really matter what this looks like. There we go, right down like that. There. And that way it'll stay stable. Now what you're going to do is glue this in like a pocket all along here, leaving this side opened. You're going to glue it down, and then you'll be able to take your string and close this pocket up like so. And put something in it. You can also maybe put something underneath here if you'd like. So that's the way that pocket will set inside there. Now we'll go to the last step, and that is getting the eyelets in. So you will need to put in a strip of decorative paper on the inside. Mine ended up being 3/4 of an inch wide. The only thing you want to be careful of is to make sure that you can freely bend and that the paper is not so wide that it's getting caught up in the creases. So the way I measured mine, because your measurement could be a little different, I just laid down a piece of paper and eyed up where the spine began and ended, you know, at both ends, and then I cut it that way, and you know, ended up well. And whatever size you cut for here will also work on the back side. Now before we put the eyelets in here, I think you need to decide what you're going to do with the closure. Now what I do with closures is I use sari silk to close them. And you have to decide, am I going to just close this up without attaching the sari silk or ribbon or whatever it is that you're using? Am I going to attach it, or am I just going to, you know, have it removable? If you're going to attach it, then for the outside strip that comes down here, I would suggest attaching the decorative paper to a piece of cardstock. And it could be lightweight cardstock. This is not heavy by any means, but it just kind of gives it a little bit more stability. And then I usually take my sari silk. And the other thing you need to watch out for is this little part right here. You want to make sure that your tie is coming up so it's not interfering with this little tab here. And it won't be the exact middle because this tab is a little long, But then I tie this very, very loosely, you know, real loose, because we still have to put in the journal pages and we want to put stuff in here. So I just make sure that it's loose, it's not tight, and then I allow, you know, a couple extra inches here for the length and everything. So I think this ended up being like 48 inches long. This already silk tie did. But anyways, you want to make sure that it is not heavy, or excuse me, tight, so that you can put stuff in it. And then you're going to mark where this tie is going to be back here. Glue it down by itself separately from the strip of paper. So just make sure you got that even through there. And then once you glue it down there, you're going to glue down your strip like so. Actually, this is upside down. You're going to glue your strip down. And that way your tie is going to be then attached. So let me then go ahead and do that off camera, because I want to do a little bit more fussy eyeing up on this, and I'll be right back. So I used Fabri-Tac to glue down that spine, made sure that my tie was above that little tab there, and tied it loosely to make sure I have plenty of room. So that's the silk tie there. Now, you know, we have not decorated any of this outside, so you might want to do all that before you put the tie on, so it won't be in your way. But I just, you know, I didn't want to do the decorating, and I just wanted to give you the bare bones of putting the structure together, so I did it that way. Now we need to put in the eyelets inside here, and the eyelets that I get have a little washer with them. I like it because I think it has a more appealing look to it, and you know, it's more even when you clamp them inside together, and I think it also made me a little bit stronger. I don't think it's, you know, a deal breaker if you don't have one with washers in it. You can definitely use ones without it, but this is what I like to use. And then for the punch, if you know, and actually it took me a while to learn this after I had it for a while, but there is this little dial here that you can measure how far in your punch is going to go. I got mine on 3/4 of an inch so that each side can be even. You know, you don't have to mark it with a pencil or anything. So you're going to go in on each side, and let's see, I got the right one. Yep, I do. Go inside here and just put your hole in the middle, like so. Very good. And then we're going to set our eyelets. Now the washer goes on the other side. Now here's where I go back and forth on, because the nicer part, of course, is going to be on this side. And yet, when you use the journal, you're always looking on this side. You know, so I kind of struggle with this. So you can put it on the outside, which I know is probably more conventional, but I actually prefer putting the nice side on the inside, because I just feel like you're going to have the journal open more than you are going to be looking at the back of the spine. So that's kind of the way I do mine. I'm not going to set these on camera because I have to actually use the old-fashioned hammer and setter, because my crocodile does not work with these for some reason. So yeah, you just set these up, and then you string in your elastic. You put your elastic in, you tie it off, and you're all set. And you just make your papers, you know, you make sure that they're probably about a ½ inch less than the measurement between your two eyelets tall. And then as far as the width goes, You don't want them to go, I wish I had one, because I always, I end up measuring this each time, and I really should probably write down the measurement. But I think 4.5 rings a bell as far as how wide, because you don't want it to interfere too much with this spine over here. And as you put it together, it's going to touch that a little bit. So you may want to take a prototype and experiment with what that measurement is. But I believe it's like 4.5, which means your paper will be 9 by whatever this measurement is. And that will be the little journal part. And I do believe that is it. Now, you can put pockets everywhere. You can go ahead and decorate this and put more pockets over here. Of course, I'm going to put 2 pockets here. And, you just have fun with it and find out, what works for you and how you would like to do it. Now, I am going to be doing a flip through of this, and you can see more details, and maybe I'll talk more about what I've done to it. But this is the basic bare bones arrangement or assembly of this file folder journal. And thank you so much for viewing. I so appreciate it. It's been a great journey, and I hope you enjoy it. And subscribe down below, because I have some more tutorials coming up. I'm still working on the portfolio, building the portfolio, and I have another file folder journal that probably is more suited for beginners. And it's much easier. It'll go much quicker than this one. And so just subscribe down below, and I look forward to speaking with you later. Have a good day. Bye.